Who knows what we'll find in a deep dive? I'm your host Youssef, and these are 10 scary NASA secrets they're hiding from you. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, let's go to space! Number 10, they don't control the weather. It may seem odd to begin this list with a rumor that is untrue, but because it has been going on for so long, many people take it as gospel. At the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, there is a sizable structure called the Vehicle Assembly Building, or the VAB. With a height of 526 feet, or 160 meters, it is the tallest single-story structure in the world. With more than 3.5 million square meters of interior space, it is also one of the largest buildings of any sort in terms of volume. This entire space is required for what takes place inside its walls. The parts of rockets, space shuttles, and other spectacular pieces of equipment are assembled here in preparation for their trip to the stars. Because of the VAB's enormous size, rumors that it had its own internal weather system started to spread, with some people thinking that clouds would gather at the top of the structure. Well, an interview from 2019 indicates that this is untrue. On especially humid days, fog has been known to roll into the VAB, but no reports of interior clouds have yet been made. Sorry to ruin the fun. Number 9, what they send to space. Don't even think for a second that you wouldn't launch anything into orbit if you had the chance. Who is to truly blame NASA for launching a variety of odd items into the atmosphere? Over the years, NASA astronauts have mentioned a number of artifacts with historical and cultural value. During the Apollo 11 mission, a piece of fabric from the original Wright brothers' flyer landed up on the moon. Perhaps to make Orville and Wilbur feel bad that they only managed to lift off a few feet. To commemorate 30 years since the release of the first Star Wars movie, the original prop of Luke Skywalker's lightsaber was launched on a space shuttle in 2007. Actually, that artifact wasn't utilized until 1983's Return of the Jedi, so war medals, teddy bears, engagement rings, and other treasured artifacts have already traveled into space with the help of NASA. But there's one more thing we should concentrate on, a cargo tag that was first shipped from Jamestown over the Atlantic in 1611. That's so far in the past. Number 8, the Enterprise. The 1981 launch of the Space Shuttle program was intended to advance affordable, reusable spacecraft. Unfortunately, the program was terminated in 2011 because it did not fully succeed the way NASA had hoped. Over the course of the project, 5 fully functional shuttles were constructed. However, today we're focusing on the one that was made before the official launch. It was intended to refer to the day it would be unveiled as Constitution Day by calling this initial attempt the Constitution. However, one thing that NASA had not anticipated while naming the spacecraft was the influence of Trekkies. Many Star Trek enthusiasts filed letters to the White House requesting that the name of the ship be altered. The government ultimately gave in to their demands and renamed the ship the Space Shuttle Enterprise. The crew of the first Star Trek was present as the ship was launched on Constitution Day in 1976. Well, everyone save William Shatner, but George Takei was present, so that's probably why. Number 7, the alligator problem. Alligators on the runway had to be continually removed every time a space shuttle touched down, which may have been one of the factors contributing to the cancellation of the Space Shuttle program. No, I mean it. The scaly snappers are everywhere at the Kennedy Space Center. The center is situated on Merritt Island, a little piece of land that isn't exactly an island, but who's keeping score? It is located off the east coast of Florida. The NASA building isn't the only item on the island, despite being its most well-known landmark. The Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge is home to more than 1,000 different plant and animal species. You name it, the refuge has it. Sea turtles, manatees, bobcats, bald eagles, etc. So, I guess some of the alligators got out and causing a ruckus. Number 6, missing moon rocks. The story of Thad Roberts and his aspirations to do something extremely intriguing with a bunch of stolen moon rocks is already well known to anyone who has read Ben Mesrich's book, Boink on the Moon. Not the real name, can't say it on YouTube. Roberts had aspirations of acquiring many degrees and becoming an astronaut as a high-flying NASA co-op. He also fantasized about stealing some of NASA's most valuable items. Roberts took 101 grams of moon rocks from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, with assistance from a group of accomplices. They must have had an issue, I suppose. Furthermore, Robert stole several dinosaur bones from his institution as if this wasn't awful enough. According to reports, he also spread the pebbles out on his bed before being intimate with his partner on top of them. So, boink on the moon as a whole. When trying to sell the rocks, the young man and his fellow thieves were caught in an FBI sting operation and received jail terms. Number 5, they didn't invent what you think. The hook and loop fastener, also known as Velcro, and polytetrafluoroethylene, thankfully most generally known as Teflon, are two of the things NASA invented that are maybe the most frequently mentioned. However, neither of them actually came about as a result of any involvement by NASA. George de Mestral, a Swiss inventor who founded the Velcro firm in the 1950s, created the fastening. The invention made it easier for astronauts to put on and take off their bulky spacesuits, and NASA was one of the first important organizations to employ it. As for Teflon, it was created in the 1930s, decades before NASA even existed. The agency frequently employs it because it serves as an extremely effective heat shield. These two concepts were not created by NASA, however, it doesn't make them completely useless. The chemicals utilized in contemporary infant formula were discovered as a result of research into alternative methods of oxygen production. Additionally, a 1990s employee created a sensor that helped modern camera phones get their start. Number 4, the pen problem. Human men are complex creatures. I know, I am one. They seem absolutely incapable of tossing their socks into the washing basket, have extremely limited knowledge in some settings, and frequently have poor personal hygiene. But it doesn't mean we won't give it another shot later. They are also extremely delicate when it comes to their manhoods. Men can provide answers that are up to 4 times larger than their true size when asked how much they are packing down there. Normally, this wouldn't be a big issue, but precise measurements are crucial in the field of space travel. NASA astronauts with a pen have custom coverings created for them prior to any space journey. The onboard urination system includes custom sheaths that must precisely fit the affected member in order to function. Initially, NASA offered the spacemen 3 sizes to choose from: small, medium, and large. This, however, had to be abandoned since an excessive number of individuals chose the large ones, even though they were considerably too enormous. It's rumored that they circumvented this by changing the names of the sizes from small, medium to large into large, huge, and gigantic. Number 3, the floating matter. It's time for some more dreck and one of the most notorious radio broadcasts in history. The Apollo 10 mission, which was the second manned orbit of the moon, was viewed as a dress rehearsal for the moon landings. After a successful mission, the crew was preparing to return to Earth when Commander Thomas P. Stafford said the infamous phrase, "Oh, who did it?" He obviously meant that a bit of human feces that was in some way floating through the air inside the module as the "it" he was referring to. When a second piece of feces was discovered after the first doo-doo was picked up using a serviette, pilot Eugene Cernan famously said, "Here's another goddamn turd." The nicest thing about the entire situation is that no one took responsibility. The enigma behind the floating floater has not been solved. Since both Cernan and colleague pilot John Young passed away, if it was one of them, they practically carried that information to their graves. Number 2, they created TLC. TLC is a cable TV network best known for shows like My 600 Pound Life and Dr. Pimple Popper, not to be confused with the WWE event or the 90s girl group. However, it can be traced back to the workers at the space agency, just like baby food and smartphone cameras can. The Appalachian Educational Satellite Project was the name of the station when it was first established in 1972. The US Department of Health, Education, and Welfare and our partners at NASA initiated this research. Its purpose was to offer employment, health, and general life guidance to young people in the areas served by public universities and institutions in the Appalachian Mountains. Over time, the station flourished and extended its service area outside the hilly region. Its name was modified to ASCN, the Learning Channel, in 1980, and by 1984 it went by the abbreviation TLC, or the Learning Channel. Number 1, Operation Paperclip. We're switching gears quickly and moving from pointless reality TV to Germany. Over the years 1939 to 1945, the third group amassed a sizable pool of scientists, engineers, and technicians. The US hoped to capitalize on some of this expertise when the conflict was over. This led to the creation of Operation Paperclip, a scheme to relocate and employ hundreds, if not thousands, of former German scientists into the US. You guessed it, the early days of NASA were one of these projects. Kurt Davis, a former V-2 rocket scientist, was one of the individuals brought over as part of Operation Paperclip. Davis joined NASA in 1960 after receiving a transfer, and in just 2 years he was appointed the organization's first director of the Launch Operations Center. From then, he was in charge of numerous rocket launches and was essential to the moon landings planning. Unfortunately, NASA was a part of Operation Paperclip, which tarnishes American post-conflict efforts. Even after all these years, hearing the painful secret doesn't become any easier. Thanks for watching. Those were 10 scary NASA secrets they're hiding from you. Leave a like and comment if we missed anything, and we hope you have a scary day.